Can't wait for this next interview because we've been talking about this for quite some time. You remember this incident where we had these protests all over America on college campuses, and most Americans were just aghast at some of the Hamas support demonstrated on our college campuses around the United States. I mean, we understood that many of our college campuses had gotten liberal, but my goodness gracious, this was another step too far. And we saw an incredible moment in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, that it made all of us so proud. And we believe that our country might be A-OK with young men like the ones that surrounded the American flag and protected the American flag on a college campus in North Carolina. John Rich, country music superstar and Nashville man, was moved by it as well. And he joins us now to talk about what the culmination of all of this will be at Flagstock. John Rich, what is going on, my friend?
Man, thank you so much for having me on. You're right. We've been working towards this for several months, and it all comes together September 2nd in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, brother. It's going to be great.
So you watched, as we did, University of North Carolina. There were a group of fraternity members there, and they saw this pro-Palestinian protest break out and this pro-Hamas and, frankly, pro-terrorist organized group. And these individuals tried to tear down the stars and stripes of our country and replace it with another flag. And these young men stood up for this country, stood up for their values and their beliefs. Talk to me about finding out about that and what the inspiration behind, how that led to your inspiration for Flagstock.
Well, it was really simple for me. I was just like you and everybody else that watched that whole event take place. That as you're horrified by seeing young people try to tear down our flag, and they wanted to pull up a foreign country's flag on our own soil, but then you see these young men standing there and they're not allowing it to happen. The first thing that crossed my mind was, wow, they've got good parents.
That's exactly right.
Their parents must have taught those boys that under no circumstances do you let Old Glory touch the ground.
That's right.
Ever, under any circumstance. So they were taught well. They knew what that meant for it to touch the ground. They stood up underneath it and were being pelted with rocks and water bottles and all kinds of stuff, and they just stood there and held it. And I was so encouraged by that and proud of those guys, because the youth in America get painted with a very broad brush, and I'm guilty of it too. Of saying, oh, these young people, they're a bunch of knuckleheads. They're all playing video games all day long in their mom's basement. They're all drinking soy lattes. They're all, just wandering around, useless to society. A lot of us talk like that, me included. I've made comments like that. But the truth is, there is a huge, huge segment of young people in this country that you never hear about because they're not the ones causing drama.
Yep.
They're going to school. They're trying to build a career. They want to start a family. They want to chase the American dream too. And that's who these young men represent. So I just reached out on my X. I still call it Twitter, but I reached out on there and I said, hey, if anybody can get a hold of these boys, tell them I'll play a free concert for them as a thank you whenever they want to have a party. And that's all it was. And it turned into just this tidal wave of support. I had artists start calling me and emailing me and saying, hey, man, if you do something, I want to be a part of that. And it turned into a huge deal that we call Flagstock. It'll happen September 2nd. It's going to be live streamed to all the United States. It'll be on the front page of Rumble. Dan Bongino is running the live stream on it. We got 11 cameras HD, all donated. People come, all the sound and lights and stage donated. All these people are coming in to make this a great event. So it's Big and Rich and Cowboy Troy. It is a rock band called Five for Fighting, which is an incredibly hard rock band, great patriot rock band. Aaron Lewis is going to come and play, and then we tag the whole thing with Lee Greenwood at the end singing God Bless the USA. Oh, by the way, there will be a flyover of military aircraft when we play the Star Spangled Banner. So this is going to be an epic event.
Absolutely love it. You mentioned something in that answer there, John, that I want to touch on because I'm guilty of it as well. You and I are relatively the same age. We're around the 50 mark, and for years, I would just trash on millennials, right? I mean, they were a punchline on my radio show. And one day I got a telephone call from a young man who's 28 years old. And I'll never forget it. This is when I was back in Birmingham. And he said, a lot of my buddies, I encourage my buddies to listen to you. And we are millennials. And we're not the problem. I promise you that. And he was very heartfelt. And he said, when you trash people that I'm trying to turn on to your thought process, it makes it a little more difficult. And it made me realize that I was allowing those people that the media talks about, and it's easy to go after, some of the younger generation and some of the weird, wacky things that they do, the ones that get the attention. But I realized that there are so many good young 20-somethings out there and even younger. And I stopped doing it because I realized that I'm going to attract more flies with honey than vinegar. And I want to bring these people into the ways of the United States of America and hope that it, some of what you have to say, John, or what maybe Matt Murphy has to say or whatever, might rub off on some of those that perhaps did not have some of that home training, like my grandpa used to call it, that you and I enjoyed in our youth.
Yeah, and I'll tell you this, Fort Campbell's just up the road, and I was there not long ago. And when you walk onto that base and you're seeing all the men and women serving, it is shocking how young those faces are. I mean, they are young. And you realize, man, they could have done anything they wanted to do with their lives in this country, and they decided to serve in the Army at Fort Campbell. And then you think about our ancestors, the men that won World War II. Good Lord, man, you're talking about 18, 19-year-old guys, some of them even 17 that were going in that early, that beat Hitler and Mussolini and Imperial Japan all at the same time. So, yes, it is a new era, and young people do come across in a different way. But, again, to these UNC frat boys, the last guys on earth you would think would be somebody that would earn your respect. They absolutely did, man. I mean, they stood there and said, I think they could have come at them with baseball bats and they wouldn't have moved.
Amen.
They were not going to move. And they just stood there and took it. And I hope that this Flagstock event we're doing, as we move towards this election, I hope I see a wave of patriotism break out in college campuses all over the place, because you only see the people that hate America on television. Show me the people that love America, because I bet it's 10-1 if you really saw the breakdown. I want to see that happen. That's my personal aspiration for Flagstock, is that it really sets into motion a big fire across this country for patriotism and love of our flag.
John Rich with us talking about Flagstock 2024 happening on September 2nd, Labor Day in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. Obviously, if you're around, you need to get to this event. But as you mentioned, John, it's also going to be broadcast so folks can go and watch it. And I want to give a shout out to some of the folks that are making it possible. I know Dan Bongino has been a part of this, and he's a great guy. It will be on his Rumble page. And also, I believe Old Glory Bank is one of your live stream sponsors making this happen for you as well, right?
Yeah, that's true. And then Mission Barbecue is actually giving free barbecue to all these frat guys and their buddies that are coming in. And Mission Barbecue, listen, if you haven't been to a Mission Barbecue, go to that place. They do the Star Spangled Banner every single day at noon, every day. I mean, that is a real deal patriot barbecue chain, so go check them out. Listen, we need positive things for us to rally behind. Everything is negative. Everything is nonsense. It's all aggravating. So when you see something great like this, young people standing up and showing courage and loving their country, they should be commended. They should be recognized. They should be celebrated. And I encourage all adults out there, like what you said earlier, go find the ones that are doing a great job and support those people. Give them some backup. Say, hey, step on out there and do it. We need the young people of this country to stand up and be patriots and stand for what our country really stands for. That's our future, man. That is our future. They got a lot more to lose than we do. We're halfway through life. These guys are starting out. They've got a lot on the line, so we should back them up every chance we get.
I bet if somebody found themselves in Chapel Hill, North Carolina on Labor Day, September 2nd, around the time that this concert's going on, you might be able to find yourself a shot of Redneck Riviera if you wanted it too. You know what I'm saying?
Well, There may be some there. There may be some. Must show ID. Must show ID.
That's right. That's right. When you're dealing with college kids, must show ID.
Right.
John, great, man. It just great on you for conceiving of this, for making it happen, for following through with it. I know we talked about it some months ago, and you said, this is happening, Murphy. And I was like, all right, well, we'll talk about it when it does. And it is happening in just a couple of days. And we'll be watching, and we'll be loving on our country and loving on those young men at the University of North Carolina with you.
Well, I'll make it real easy to find that link. So on Labor Day, just go to my X account at John Rich or True Social at John Rich. It'll be pinned and right at the top of that page. So 7 o'clock, you can click on that link and join in and watch us celebrate freedom. It's going to be great.
Absolutely love it. Thanks for popping on with us, John. I appreciate you, man.
Anytime, man. Take care.
Take care. There's John Rich. Flagstock happening Labor Day. I'll tell you, I mean, you remember we talked to him, and he was like, it's going to happen. This is, and I was like, I guess he's going to do this thing, and here we are.
It was real spontaneous, too. It was like 1 second he was watching it, the next he was like, I'm doing that.
You know, the most controversial thing that he said, and you might have thought it at the time. I did not, because I don't know them. Several people online are like, Five for Fighting is hard rock? I don't know.
Compared to Big and Rich, yes, it is.
Well, I mean, yeah, sure. Well, I appreciate John coming on and appreciate him doing this. He's right. And you know, we're guilty of this too. And based on how we opened the show today and talking about some of the stuff we were discussing yesterday and based on what John had to say, I mean, there's an old saying, if it bleeds, it leads. That is a statement that journalists or those that have been in the communication industry know. It is a concept that bad news sells more than good news. Let's put it this way. Flight lands safely and on time is not a headline you're ever going to see, right? Because it's not news. And so the nature of news is that it gravitates toward the negative. Now, when you take that reality and blend with it the bias that we see in the mainstream media today, you have not only an avalanche of negative news, but that negative news seems to all point in one direction, that conservatives are the problem or Republicans are the problem and Democrats are your salvation. And that's not true. And the news is not all negative. There are some positives out there. We need to do better about highlighting them. I need to do better about highlighting them. And I appreciate someone like John Rich that spends his time, energy, effort, and money to do the same. So September 2nd, this coming Monday, Chapel Hill, North Carolina. Gates are opening at 5 o'clock. The concert starts at about 7:30. I think the live stream starts at 7.